focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
Well, I'm so glad you made it to Wealth on the Beach podcast. And everybody, we're hanging out with Brandon Dawson. He founded his first company at 28 years old, Sonos. I hope I'm saying that right.
Sonos, yeah, Sonos.
And he was the founder and CEO for 7 years. Actually got it onto the American Stock Exchange in 1998, was one of the youngest people to do so. And this dude's a stud, raising capital, negotiating, closing, organizing big businesses, navigating, building of technology platforms, hiring, developing teams, building teams, creating teams, concepts. From there, check this out. From there, everything that he learned, he started a new company. He ended up getting removed by the old from the other company, kind of a management deal. And then he started Audigy. Is that how you say it?
Audigy. That's correct.
Audigy. And bottom line, dude sold it for $151 million, y'all. All right. So we're talking to a big player right here. And I've known Brandon for, God, I don't even know how many years now, but we've been 22 years we've known each other. And we actually got introduced through a guy named Hector Lamarck. So tell us a little bit about Hector Lamarck and how you know Hector.
So, what's funny is the company I started, that I took public, Hector and I, right a year after I took it public, he and I both joined a golf club in Palm Desert, and we became best friends. And obviously Hector's in Primerica Financial Services, and we just were golfing buddies, same handicap, younger guys at the club, loved hanging out with each other. And then fast forward a few years later, when my public company investors, my private equity group, decided they wanted to sell the business, and I didn't agree with selling it. So they said, fine, kicked me up to chairman and brought a guy in to sell it. I left to try to buy it back. Well, Hector watched and was participating as a friend through that process. And I wasn't able to, with September 11th happening, it just sold so fast and everyone was distracted. And what I did is I was an acquirer of businesses. So I acquired hundreds of businesses and I franchised 1,000 of them in my first company. And I recognized that the franchise businesses would use all the things I built and created, and they would grow and they were so happy. But the businesses I acquired, they refused to use the things I created. And so it created this dichotomy of when you force somebody to do something, they resist it, even if it's better for them. When you give something to somebody and they use it to benefit themselves, they'll embrace it. And I was explaining this to Hector, and he started talking to me about Primerica Financial Services and what he did and how he built his businesses. And I recognized my weaknesses as a business owner and entrepreneur. I recognized I was not a good leader. I recognized I didn't have a structure in place for process duplication. I recognized I didn't understand finances and how to make money work. I was just a business guy that was a sales guy converted over to creating so much energy, raising capital and doing all the things that people said I couldn't do, fighting through that. But I was winning enough that I had intellectual ignorance and intellectual arrogance. So I just kept doing what I was doing, and I stopped asking for mentorship. And all of a sudden I found myself 7 years into it on the wrong side of a private equity deal. And I had to start over, and I recognized my weaknesses. In fact, it was Hector on the golf course. I was complaining about a year after I left that business about if only being a victim. And Hector pulled the golf cart over and he said, dude, I can't play golf with you anymore if you're going to have a drainer attitude. So you need to learn some things. You're co-creator of your own conditions. What you think about is what you talk about. What you talk about is what you end up doing, and what you do is what you're ultimately known for. And I was writing this down on the scorecard, and he said, you need to fix your mind so you can fix your activities, so you can move to the result you want. Because if you keep fixating on everything that went wrong, you're going to continue to find the result of what's wrong, because the brain can't work opposite of what you talk about. So whatever you state as your intentions, you're going to move to. So he said, let's get off the golf course. You go spend some time in self-discovery, get your shit figured out. And if you have the right attitude, I'll start playing golf with you again. And gave me a bunch of books. And it just dynamically changed my life. So Hector has been one of the most influential mentors I've had my whole life. And he was there for the most important catalyst of my life, which was retransforming my thinking so my doing could follow my intentions.
That is so refreshing to hear that. And especially because I've known Hector obviously over 25 plus years, and he's been my mentor in business. And of course I could go on and on about all the things I've learned from him through the years, but it's so refreshing to hear somebody outside of our business talk about how he's also influenced people outside of our business. So pretty cool. And it inspires, I think, all of us to one day maybe be that for someone else. And of course, yeah, it should. And of course, that's the direction that you've been on, or that's been the path that you've been on for so many years now, changing so many people's lives. And so, but I want to find out a little bit more about you in the sense of like, where were you raised? You know, did you come from like rich parents or poor parents or middle class? And where were you raised? I mean, tell us a little bit about your childhood, man.
Yeah, sure. So well, it's an eclectic collection. I was raised in Jefferson, Oregon, population of probably like 50. And my dad was a pastor, and my mother was a nurse. And from the ages of 6, 7, and 8, we used to pick all the watermelons and pick the pumpkins and pick the garden and go stand on the rural road and with a stand and sell stuff on the side of the street. And I did that as a little kid. And so then my mother and father divorced when I was 8. And my father moved to Corvallis, Oregon, and my mother moved to Minnesota. And she was a nurse. She was selling hearing aids for an ENT doctor. And so I used to go with her when she'd go to people's homes to test their hearing and then sell them hearing aids. And I just learned to kind of engage people and talk to them because I kind of had to. And then my mother married a gentleman who invented a hearing aid that he had a startup. And by the time I was in my teens, so from 8 years old, you know, we were all poor, I would say, you know, it was like not poor, but middle class, I guess, but farm middle class. So, you know, we're out in the middle of nowhere doing nothing, but working, taking care of the animals, you know, being kids. And so in my teenage years, my stepdad, he's now my ex-stepdad, he invented an in-the-ear hearing aid that didn't exist. And the business went from basically startup for the first 6 years I was with him. My mother and he went out to Ronald Reagan's house, and my mother tested Ronald Reagan, and they fit him with this new hearing aid. And the world didn't know about it for about 6 months. And then a reporter asked, "Mr. President, what do you have in your ear?" And he said, "I'm wearing a new Starkey." And that business went from basically startup, I'm talking little tiny few employees startup, to today it's a $1.2 billion business. And so I watched what happened as a teenager. So what was interesting is I lived with my dad and stepmom in Corvallis and went to grade school and high school. And they were middle class, bunch of boys, every day grinding 7 days a week, part-time jobs to keep the family. And we had a walnut orchard that put us into school. They needed it for our private Christian school. So I had to work for everything. You know, I played 3 sports, worked at restaurants, bucked hay, picked walnuts, whatever I had to do. And then I'd go to Minnesota. And because the business my mom and stepdad had was taking off, we had to work. So I, as a 11 or 12-year-old, I'd sit with a razor blade and cut plastic off of faceplates and clip microphones and receivers and test them with OM meters, and then go in the print shop and fill print orders. And everyone was always, thank God, was always expecting that you would work on both sides. And I got to watch my mom and stepdad's business take off. And I watched how my dad and stepmom lived, and I'd go back and forth, and it really reinforced lots of qualities inside of me. But the most important quality is it put me in a position where I could learn new things, have to do new things, And I just learned a work ethic. And I watched a business go from nothing to many times almost breaking to being a global leader over 35 years. And so I watched that, and I watched the alternative, just two people that I love dearly that worked so hard every day to take care of their family. So one was a really big picture perspective, and the other was not small, but it was more conservative, I would guess, more just kind of bread and butter. And I learned in that process that I don't want to be bread and butter. And that was the catalyst of those two dichotomies. And I'd go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth all the way up to, I just packed everything up and moved from Portland, Oregon. The year after I graduated high school, I started college. I hated college. I would go in and sell a half a day a week hearing aids over the phone to hearing aid dealers. And I would sell more than someone working full time. And I loved selling. It's just like you'd go in and do something, and then boom, you get this result that other people work so hard and they wouldn't even be able to do. And it just inspired me. So I dropped out of college and I moved to Atlanta, and I became an outside sales rep for 11 states and drove around in a car selling hearing aids out of the back, doing open houses with doctors for 2.5 years. And that's really where I cut my teeth.
It isn't. I mean, if you look at it, Brandon, there's this thought in America, and I want your thoughts on this as well, but there's this thought that you got to go to college to be successful. You know, you got to take out a big loan. You know, you got to listen to these college professors all day long for 5 and 6 years so that they can teach you how to make it in the United States of America. Is that true today?
It wasn't true then. I don't think it's true today, because none of those people actually, 99.9% of those people that are preaching and teaching, they've never actually done it. And I'm a firm believer those that haven't done it can't teach you how to do it. And also, I just think that the system is set to trap and create mediocrity in people. You know, I was a 2.4 GPA. I barely graduated high school. I was voted least likely to succeed. I'll tell you what got me ahead in life. That is no fear. That's the willingness to go all in and commit to whatever I was doing and to train myself and get better every day. And I still live by that. And the confidence that no matter what happened, I could take care of myself. So I've had 3 or 4 examples of where I've had to rely on that, because there's been 3 different times where I've almost had nothing and I had to start over. So people are like, oh, you watched your parents get wealthy. Oh, that's why you're successful. Like, no, I'm successful because I walked away from things that were guarantees, like 150 grand a year with a newborn and a 2.5-year-old, with a home I had built. I sold it all, walked away from it to go start my own thing, because my parents got divorced. I couldn't take it anymore, and I needed to be my own person. And I was uncertain for 2 years and grinded every day to survive. And then only to build that public company and to do things everyone said I couldn't do. I'd never be the CEO of a public company out in Corvallis. I should go to Les Schwab and change tires. And here I am on the 88th floor of the World Trade Center, the day before taking my company public, raising $28 million with the most prestigious financial institution, high school graduate, barely knew what the hell I was doing, because of the sheer willpower, determination, and overcoming constant rejection, horrible rejection, like destructive rejection. And I stayed resilient. And then I lost that in 2002. That's when I was with Hector. And instead of focusing on what I did do, I went into a cycle where I was talking about what I didn't do. And I really got down on myself, and I lost that energy, and I became fearful, and I became angry, and it was disrupting my life. And thank God Hector threw me that lifeline where he's like jolted me back to reality. And in fact, the thing I love about Primerica, I'll just say this, is you and I became friends because I went into Hector's business, because I recognized here in traditional business, I could not get employees to show up, care about things that would create more money for them, more wealth for them. They would just reject it if it wasn't their idea, even if it's a great idea. And yet I go and I see Primerica and you guys holding meetings, and people that are working full-time jobs or even more than full-time jobs are coming in the evening. They're challenging themselves to develop themselves. They're making phone calls and overcoming and learning to do hard things. They're recruiting people and getting rejected and still recruiting people. They're going into people's homes and helping them. And everyone would always smile. They all looked amazing because they were excited. It doesn't matter what their physical appearance was. They had energy of enthusiasm and excitement. And I'm like, God, what is the difference between traditional business and this environment? And it was like, for me, I wanted to understand it. So I went and got my licenses and I worked under Hector, recruited 70 people up in Washington State, worked myself up to where I was going to go RVP, but then I launched my new company that had a security attached to it. So I had to resign within Primerica because you couldn't have conflicting securities. And so I learned so much in that window of time about duplication, inspiration, empowerment, development. And I was like, man, I'm going to bring this to traditional business. And I'm not going to do it with anybody else's money. And I had enough money, what I was making, but I created a business differently than what all the consolidation, acquisition companies and everything were doing that failed. And based on my own experiences and struggles, I wanted to reinvent traditional business. And I did that, launched it in 2005. And that business self-propelled. I never raised a dime. I never borrowed any money. I never took a dime from anybody. I generated 50 million in profits over 14 years, scaling the business to 200 employees, creating massive value for our clients. They outgrew their peer group 3.5 to 15 times in value and size. And then I sold that to a public company to take those methodologies across the rest of the world for them for 151 million and 77 times EBITDA, an unbelievable sales process. And then that public company was worth $1 billion, traditional, stale, European public company. And I took what I learned working with Hector and Primerica and what I learned based on my failures and successes, and I took it into $1 billion public company that had been $1 billion for 4 years, $16 a share, never went up, just sat there. And within 36 months, we were $92 a share, $4.5 billion in market value. And they paid me in addition to that. And it was so successful that I packaged everything I had done and I went and partnered with Grant Cardone and launched it to the world on how to help business owners grow and scale. And in 3 years, we've created a business where we have over $1 billion under management right now.
So you're an animal, bro. I mean, I've known you for a long time, but really, getting into the meat here, you are an absolute rock star, and you should be so proud of yourself, man. I mean, when you're talking about the diligence and the hard work and the focus and, the grind and all that, I mean, why is it that you think so many people today, what are they missing? Why is it that society today has gotten maybe a little bit, at least a big chunk of society, it's gotten a little bit softer and weaker in that mindset of determination and courage and passion and belief and doing whatever it takes to get the job done?
It's interesting. It's a good question. I think, Gallup poll surveys 100 million workers every single year. 2/3 are disengaged. 18% are actively disengaged and admit that they're trying to sabotage the organization that they work within and get a paycheck from. I just think people it's been made easy for them. Like nothing was easy for me. If I wanted money when I was playing football and I wanted anything new for football, I needed to go buck hay, or I needed to go work in the restaurant, or I needed to go earn it because my parents didn't have the money. So I knew if I wanted anything, I had to go get it. I think today there's so much entitlement in the last 20 years and people, everyone wants to be heard and have an opinion, but they haven't done anything. So to me, I tell people, look, the people I listen to are the ones that are in the top 10% of whatever we're doing. Like everyone else doesn't have a right to have an opinion. You don't even I don't even care what you think because you haven't done anything. And I think that the way the world is positioning people today and the way people want to position themselves is I should have a voice, I should have an opinion, and I should have a concern, even if I have no example of anything that I could actually do to improve a situation. So I want you to listen to my opinion on it, but I don't actually have a solution for it because I don't know how to do it. So what happens is stagnation occurs, and this happens in organizations. Jim Collins talks about this, Good to Great, Great by Choice, How the Mighty Falls. It's just when people are protecting what they want instead of going after or what they need, instead of going after what they want, then they start defending. And when you start defending, you start rationalizing, you start excusing, you start projecting, you start, it's just like you're protecting what you got instead of going after it. And I think that most people, they feel entitled to what they think they deserve. And I just never grew up that way. And I find people that don't think that way. So when you ask me about college, I mean, look, I think Primerica, I tell everybody this, man, I'm a huge advocate. I call it the money multiplier model. You can go earn for yourself. You can teach others to earn and train them and get paid off of developing those people. You can get a business that's doing so well that you get equity based on how big you get from a public vehicle, which is always the most valuable way to multiply equity. And so there's so many different ways to make money versus traditionally going to work, trading time for money for those that want to pursue it. And the thing that impressed me back then, that set of mindset for me today is how many $1 million producers, and you were an up and comer in there. I remember the year, I think one of the years I was there, was the first year we went over $500,000 or something. And I was just like, and you were a young kid. I mean, I was like, God dang it, this guy's out crushing it. Look at the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement. I remember you were doing those DVDs and you were pushing them out there. You were promoting yourself in a world that today it's easier to do with social media, but back then it was not easy to do. You had to produce all that stuff and you hand it to people and look them in the eyes, where they weren't sitting at home scrolling through it. Right. So look, man, to me, that's what's missing in traditional business. So that's what I took to traditional business. You would be stunned. Do you know we have done since 2005 to 2022, we have done over 45,000 PPF conversations in traditional business. People, like, it moves the business. And people are like, God, I can't believe you thought of this. I said, I didn't think of it. The team at Primerica Financial thought of it. I learned to do it from Hector. And I took that into traditional business. I've actually built an automation platform. Every business we manage right now, it's almost 6,000 or 7,000 people. Everyone has PPFs in our technology. They've got the financial budgets and goals for the business mapped to them. So every employee can hit one personal, professional, financial goal in the year 1, mid-target year 3, by year 5. And then we layer in what we call the EMM, the employee maturity model, which is your guys's analysis step up into being an EVP.
Right.
And I built that for traditional business because the thing that's missing is the mental picture for a person that I can come in, bust my ass, actually make more money, get rewarded, make more with more knowledge, information, and people I've developed. And I can work my way up to a future partner in your system. And I'm like, that's what's missing in traditional business. People come trade time for money. They never know what their opportunity is. No one's telling them. So your good people eventually leave to go do something different because there's no picture. And so I just took what I learned from you guys in a vehicle that truly allows ordinary people to create an extraordinary living. And so when you ask me about education, I got a kid that trained on Cardone U for 3 years from Mexico. He used it to learn to speak English. First year working for me, he's going to make $250,000. I've got stories after stories after stories of business owners that are worth tens of millions of dollars that when they started working with me, they were making $500,000 a year. And they're incorporating the same things you guys teach people every single day, methodically for 20 plus years. And I think I just want to put that plug in there because I say that what you do only matters to a certain point. Then it's who you do it with and how you do it. You guys created that system and you teach people to be able to what works. There's no question. Now, how big do you want to get? And I think that was the piece in traditional business that I saw that was missing. And I took it to traditional business.
Well, I think you figured it out, Brandon. I mean, you figured out that people will work harder for themselves than they'll ever work for some corporation or some boss that's making all the money. And people, and that's why the model worked. And so I just, because you've really done a great job in the branding area, the marketing area. And I think that's a missing piece that I think that the company, in all transparency, if all of these agents that are in the company right now, if they don't start figuring out how to adapt and change and market and advertise and start going a little bit more, maybe not globally, but a little bit more, at least North American wide in their visibility, a lot of people are going to get left behind. I was just reading this morning that, I don't know, something like 80% of the companies that were on the Dow, 80 years ago or whatever, they're no longer even in existence, let alone in the last even 20 years, there's probably, 20 or 30% left. So the companies that don't adapt, they will suffer the consequences of that action in the coming 5 and 10 years. And I think it's happening even faster, right? Because as technology runs faster, people are getting left behind even faster. Can I get your thoughts on that, Brandon?
Yeah. So, let's bring it to today's numbers. I just looked at the stats for 2021. There are 31.5 million small to mid-sized businesses in the United States, and that's defined as under $100 million. And 25 million of those have a single employee, the founder trying to figure out how to make whatever their vision is work. 5.3 million have between 2 and 12 employees, and 600,000. So less than 1.8% of those businesses out of 31.5 million have greater than 12 employees. Now, the interesting stats on the last 10 years is 2/3 of those businesses cyclically fail every 5 years, and 97% of those businesses fail every 10. So it is hard to build something that's sustainable. And the reason that it's hard to do it is because people don't learn the technical. They practice. Everything's a practice. And they don't create a system, which is why Primerica is such a great company, because it created a system for people. They didn't really need to know the what, because they were trained on that. They just needed to know, and then they were trained on how and then who. So when you think about it, using that overlay on top of traditional business, there's 7 promotions. And so what happens when businesses become successful, especially the big ones you're talking about that are on the Dow and stuff, the people that eventually take those businesses over, they don't understand the promotion. They think they're supposed to manage. So when you go from a builder to a manager, you're already going to go into decline. If you don't properly have the same number of builder or more centralized, if you don't have key builders that then the managers can work with, and you end up with just managers, you're going to go into decline, because managers don't know how to build. They just know how to manage. And that's when businesses become oppressive, because they start managing, especially when they're public, because they start trying to manage the earnings every quarter. It becomes highly transactional. So, and they don't want to spend money on the building side. So they start reducing marketing. They start cutting back the sales team. They start clamping down on customer incentives. And all of a sudden the business goes to decline. And if it's big enough, it just takes years of erosion for that to happen. So the 7 promotes is first promote what you're doing. Like if you're not constantly promoting what you're doing, then no one knows what you're doing. So those that don't know you won't flow you. That's a direct quote. I mean, there's no better promoter than my business partner, one of the top social media guys in the world, Grant Cardone. And what I'm telling you is exactly why I partnered with him, because I didn't really understand all this as a traditional business guy. But we are definitely working diligently on mastering it. So the first promote is what you do. So people know about you, right? And then remember, best known beats best. So you could be the best. These people that have this ideology that, oh, we're experts, so we should be entitled to business. No, the people that are better known will be best. So you better figure out how to be better known and best. So promote what you do, promote why you do it, promote the impact that you create for others, promote the opportunity to others to come do it with you, promote the mission and vision and values of your organization so people understand the bigger picture and the direction you're going, and then promote people in your organization to take over areas of responsibility so they become advocates and owners within the company to create that magnitude of impact, that massive picture accomplishment. Now, so there's 7 promotes. And then why do you promote? You promote first, you don't promote to get new customers. You first promote for yourself so that you remember what you're in it for. The second reason you promote is for your employees or your team members to understand you're serious and you're committed and you're letting the world know. Then third, promote for your competitors to let them know you're coming and to show them you're serious. And then fourth, promote to get new clients. That way everyone understands what's happening. But people think, oh, I don't want to promote because it's embarrassing or it's hard to do. That's one thing you were always great at. You're a promoting king. I just remember you running around with your discs and you had carried a box of them everywhere you went, and you're like, hey, I'm going to show you, I'll teach you, just trust me, just follow me. That's all promotion. And so what happens is business owners get a little bit of success and they stop promoting. Business owners go out and hire employees to do functions, and they don't teach the employees to promote. Do you know, after interviewing 4,000 employees across 100 different industries, when we ask the question, what incentives do you have inside your organization to promote and get new clients on behalf of the organization? It was 100% zero. There is no training of the team members that work in an organization. So you know what happens? You go to work for a dentist, you start working long hours, the dentist ignores you because they're busy, and all of a sudden you're going to church and people are saying, hey, how do you like working for that dentist? You're like, oh, I don't really like it. It's long hours. I don't really like it there. And then the dentist is running ads in that marketplace to those people that live in that church. They're getting served up the ads. And then they're like, Sally doesn't even like working there. Why would I go there? So if you can't get your own team to be like, I love it, this is what we're doing, this is how we change lives, and you don't intentionally teach them to promote, then you're actually creating your own resistance within your marketplace. So this is why businesses go through decline, because all you have to do is go to Glassdoor reviews and see how many people are trashing the company they're working with. And of course, then the company's spending money to promote itself as an expert. We care about our customers. We care about our employees. We're experts in what we do. And yet their operations are horrible. Their teams are miserable. So, it's a decline.
Grant Cardone, how did that marriage happen in business? And just by the way, I've known Grant for a little while, and Grant is cool dude. His marketing team, which Hank and Steve and those guys, or his early marketing team, his early promoter guys, and I actually worked with them for a couple of years actually. And through that, I got to develop a little bit of a relationship with Grant and Elena. And so just amazing people. I got to spend a little bit of time with them at their office. And it's really, really interesting, because I remember telling Grant, I'm like, could you imagine if you were a part of a business, okay? I don't know if he remembers this, but I was at his office and I said, could you imagine if you had a business that you could actually recruit people in, and I said, how many people do you think you could recruit in one day, just out of curiosity? And he said, probably about 5,000 people. And I said, what are you talking about? And so 5,000, that was his answer, is 5. And I said, how could you recruit 5,000 people a day? He said, well, I did a webinar yesterday and I charged $50 and I made, I got 5,000 people to show up. So I could get 5,000 people to pay me money. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, Elena is now becoming a superstar in her real estate company, where they recruit and they train and they develop.
Yeah,
actually,
so the only other model I've seen since Primerica was EXP.
It's blowing up, man. It's incredible what's happening. And I met her at a little party out in LA, and not her, but I mean, she was there at a party in LA, and I got to see her present it, and just like an op night, man, it was so cool, and it was really refreshing to see them use that, because people just don't realize that when you have a brand, when you have 1 million, 2 million, 5 million people following you on social media, it becomes a lot easier to recruit. So that's the power of the brand, the power of the marketing and the promotion that you're talking about. So you were saying?
Yeah, so I had done research from 2010 to 2020 on hundreds of industries that had been attempted to be consolidated but didn't work because of the fragmentation. And I always knew I could build this mousetrap to go roll up all those industries on behalf of the business owners versus the public equity guys. And so I had all this. And when I sold my business and then we grew the public company, I kind of needed to test myself on my skills of going from 1 billion to 4 and wanting to do it in 10 or 15 other countries besides just North America. So once I had my confidence with that, I was now on a new plan. And the question I had to ask myself is, where can I go and meet a massive amount of people taking 20 years of my work, building automation, doing research and all, millions of dollars building all this out, and then proving with a 77 times EBITDA and then taking $1 billion company to 4 that it works, right? And so I had a new problem. How do I go out? So all the private equity guys were coming to me saying, we want you to take our distressed assets. And I was like, I don't want to do that, because that's the position I hated back when they got me out of my business. And so Natalie, who's half my age, she's a remarkable partner. She was like, you should look at some of these social media guys. So I started looking at the traditional suspects, and I was going through them one at a time. And then she brought me Grant Cardone. I had never heard of him. And she said, you should look at this guy. And this was in 2009 or the end of 2018. And I'm like, she showed me a YouTube video of Grant. And he had his hat like this, and he was in front of his plane going, hey, 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 shooting money out of his hand. And I started laughing. I said, now you're playing with me. And she's like, no, you got to understand the genius of this guy. You got to look at what he's done. And so I resisted it for a good 3 months. Then she gave me the 10X rule, and I refused to have anything to do with it based on that one video. And she said, your intellectual arrogance and ignorance is getting in your way of your dream. And that's the problem you have, Brandon. And I was like, okay. So then I started listening to it, and I was like, this guy's a genius. Like in the first 15 minutes of listening to 10X rule, I knew he knew what he was talking about. We talked about those teachers and the people telling us at church what to do and all that. They've never done it. When someone's done it, you know they've done it. Like you and I sit down and we talk, I know you did it, because there's no way you could have this muscle memory and this programmed response to so many different things if you hadn't done it. So all of a sudden I'm like, all right, he's the real deal. Let's go to GrowthCon. No one knew who we were. We bought tickets. Now, a dear friend of mine was speaking there, John Maxwell, and I've worked with him in his business and helped him, and he's helped me for 15 years or 13 years now. And Hector introduced me to John, by the way. So John was speaking there. So he and I went to dinner afterwards, and he's like, man, I'd never been in a room with 35,000 people like that. And I was like, I can't believe he pulled this off on Super Bowl weekend. And every person I met there were business owners that I called my research firm, and I said, before I roll in this meeting, of the 300 verticals I targeted to roll up, how many of them does he do sales training in? And they came back and said 62%. So I was like, whoa. So I was meeting all these amazing people from HVAC, medical, roofing, windows, you name it. I was meeting them. So I went to Grant. I got a chance to meet Grant. John pulled Grant aside after he spoke, and he pointed at us and had us come up by the side of the stage. I'd never met Grant, never even seen personally Grant this first day. And he pointed at us and stood there, and Grant kind of waved. And then he told me that night at dinner, I told Grant, those are my people. Like anything, if you get a chance to meet them, you need to meet this couple. And so I met Grant, and Grant said, hey, I wanted to meet you, don't know shit about you. Because I didn't let no sale. They thought my transaction on their webpage was a fraud, because I spent 30 grand for 2 tickets and nobody knew who I was. And that was intentional. I didn't want, just in case I wanted to bail, I didn't want anybody to know who I was, right? So I said, Grant, I've got something that could add a couple billion to your net worth and mine if you want to talk about it. So we started the conversation. I showed him what I did, what I've created, where it's 100% complement to what he does, where I don't know how to do what he does. It was a multiplier, and it was taking this, your exact observation. It's not by chance that Elena and Grant, we aren't going to partnerships where there's a money multiplier model. And in fact, EXP was the new version of what I learned at Primerica. So I run Elena's business case at EXP. We've recruited over 600 agents in less than a year. And what I've also done is we're rolling out our 10X Health program. I'm announcing it at the event in 3 weeks. It is a money multiplier model as well. And I've engineered 10 other industries using the money multiplier model that takes traditional joint venture, franchise, and the money multiplier model economic system and puts it all into one business unit I've created using all these concepts and leverage points. And we're announcing the 10 industries that we're rolling it out at GrowthCon.
Fantastic, man. That is, wow. That's, I mean, you know, but again, what you did though, is you brought value to the table. You said, hey, Grant, I can change your business. I can do this for you. I can help you with this. There was no, there was no mistaking what you had done in your life, and you were ready. It was just the timing was right for you to say, look, I'm going to go and I'm going to merge with another company, and I'm going to take this thing to a whole new level.
Yeah,
so congratulations on that, by the way.
What I would tell your listeners is that I'm a firm believer that, especially with all the new economies that are coming, especially with how much disruption, that the true currency going forward is collaboration. It's not cash. And I would never be where I'm at today if it wasn't for Hector teaching me, collaborating with me. I'd never be where I'm at today if I didn't build a business model that collaborated with business owners and helped them. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't collaborate with all these thought leaders, John Maxwell, Jim Collins, Sharon Lechter, Robert Anthony, all the people that Hector introduced me conceptually to, that I've had the privilege to work. If I didn't collaborate with all those people, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't know what I know. And so my business model is actually a collaboration model. And because of how impressed I was with what Primerica did, because Primerica is a collaboration model. You go out to the community, you find people, you help them. The ones that want it bad enough will actually do the right kind of work. They'll have the resilience necessary to succeed, and then they'll be the living example for other people to do it. And that's what's missing in traditional business, is there's no examples for anybody, because everybody's stuck in a hierarchical control mechanism that doesn't promoting people. It promotes securing and holding your spot. So it's why business it's how business needs to evolve and grow. And I'm really super excited about it. But the roots and the origin of all this is what you guys do every day. And I think your listeners should know, like, if you're sitting there right now and you're like, hey, I want to one day own my own business, let me be crystal clear. Only 3% of all the businesses succeed over a 10-year window. It's a painful route. 2/3 of those businesses fail in the first 5 years. 97% fail in the first 10 years. And the reason they fail, the top 3 complaints on why they failed. Complaint number 1, there's no demand for my product or service. Complaint number 2, I can't find any good people to help me. Complaint number 3, I can't get financing. Guess what? In your business at Primerica, you take all of that out of the equation, because we know there's demand for product or service. You have an unbelievable public company that's trading at massive valuations and has grown every single year for the last 25 years by creating value for human beings and what you do. You have a human development platform that allows ordinary people to create extraordinary results and become multi-million-dollar earnings. I know him personally, Chris Howard. I had dinner or lunch with him the other day. You've got so many, Brandon Neal. You got so many people that I still remember that started out when I started out that became millionaires in the business. So the question of, does it work? The answer is absolutely. But who does it work for is what you have to ask yourself, because now it's the who. So the what, the how, now it's the who. The question for people that work with you is, do they have the internal fortitude to do what's necessary based on what the living examples of the other people did, and fight through the challenges, the false beliefs, the false glass ceilings, the opinions and perspectives of their peer groups and their friends and their family, telling them they should just get a good job and be comfortable and go have a family and go to college and just be normal and don't press anything and don't try to sell anybody anything. All that oppressive thinking, because they were programmed. The question is, do you have the resilience to ignore all that, to pursue your own personal, professional, financial goals, to find true financial freedom? Because if the answer is, I don't care what anybody has to say, I want that as the highest priority in my life, the thing you guys offer, just like EXP, just like what we're doing for businesses, there's no longer a question, does it work? It's all been laid out. The only question is, are you committed to making it happen?
Love that. Good stuff, man. Look, Brandon, we could do this for another 3 hours. I know it. And I can't wait to soon get together with you in person so we can, have some lunch, have a drink or something one of these days. Hey, look, I want to know, because there's a lot of people right now that they're going, man, this guy, I mean, you've said it all. I mean, this is gold. I really want to find out how people can get a hold of you. How can they reach you? And then what are you looking for? Because I know, I get your text messages, man. You're telling the world about, meet you up on Tuesday nights and these different meetings and events, and of course, Growth Con. Tell us all about all the great things that you have going on and how we can reach you.
And by the way, some things you never forget. Why do I do it on Tuesday nights? Because we used to run our base shop meetings on Tuesday nights. I mean, look, when you get a system that works, there's no reason in changing it, right? So look at the easiest way to know what I'm doing and to get bits and pieces of it, to build a relationship if you're interested, or just be educated if you want to, or whatever, or you're just looking for a little inspiration, is at Brandon M. Dawson. My Instagram account, just at Brandon M. Dawson. And we're always posting, we're always on the move. You can click on things there and find your way to anything we're talking about, anything we're doing. And it's the easiest way to do it is just at Brandon, BRANDON MDAWSON. So at Brandon M. Dawson. I also have a podcast, The B. Dawson Show. It's on iTunes. It's on YouTube. So you can go to my YouTube channel. It's just Brandon Dawson. And, I just try to make it easy to find me, and just acknowledge and accept, though, that I'm going to teach you something about promotion and marketing, because I've been learning from my mentor, Grant Cardone, that once you decide that you want to take a look at something, I'm going to be all over you, because I want you to achieve the things that are important to you. And it's my job to be an inspiration as a 2.4 GPA high school dropout who learned just by doing, with great mentors. I want to be that for other people. So I'm going to be in your face like a coach, because I want you to win. That's the most important thing.
You rock, man. This has been good stuff. I want all of you to do me a favor, all of you that are watching and listening right now. Go out and send a message on Instagram right now, okay? At Brandon M. Dawson, and go send him a message and say, man, I heard you on Wealth on the Beach podcast right now. Let him know that he brought some major gold today, and he brought value. He's doing this for free, right? We both are sitting here trying to pour our hearts out to anybody and everybody that's looking to change their life. And there's no one better than Brandon to help you to be able to do that. So please reach out. Please say hi. He wants to get to know you. He wants to build a relationship with you. And I really, and again, knowing him for as long as I've known him, over 2 decades, he's the real deal, y'all. He's the real deal. So you better hook up with him, and he'll take you places that you probably never thought that you could take yourself. So again, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on the show today. As always, everybody, continue to dream bigger than ever. Make sure you get after it like there ain't no tomorrow, but most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.